Issaquah High School. This is Principal McCormick, again here to tell you more about Nest. So, one of the big questions out there is, why are we doing this? Of course, there's a component of what's going to be helpful for teachers, like being able to help students one-on-one or in small groups, and limit their classroom interruptions for things like fire drills and assemblies. But the biggest thing I want to talk with you about is how this is going to benefit students and why students wanted this. We are constantly hearing from students about how difficult it is to manage their homework load. And once they get home from school, they have other things they have to worry about, like sports, jobs, clubs, family time. So they've asked for time in the school day to try to work on some of those daily homework pieces. Additionally, students are always looking for more time to take care of their business items like paying school fines and fees, emailing a teacher, making up a quiz from an absence. And then lastly, we're hearing from students constantly, year after year, about when do we learn real life skills? School is missing that critical piece of real life skills. All we're doing is our Core 24 classes. So when we surveyed students and teachers about Nest time, 93% of students wanted this time in the school day, and 87.2% of teachers agreed that this was a great thing to bring to Issaquah High School. Now let's talk a little bit about the logistics. You've already seen this for a couple of days now, but nest time is between second and third period. It is in the same place where students already had an extended passing period break. That break already existed in our school day. All we've done is elongate it a little bit in order to have enough time to accomplish the tasks that we want to accomplish. Those tasks are going to be 3 different items. Students are going to balance their nest time between choice flex time, where they get to choose how they spend their time, SEL lessons that focus on the future you, and all school events. We're now going to take a few minutes to talk about each of these 3 ways you're going to be using your time. The first way you're going to be using your time is choice time. Students are going to have a few days each week where they get to choose how they spend their time. This is very much relying on you to use your time wisely. Your time may be balanced between academic, social, and business needs. Academic items might be things like getting help from a teacher during their open office hours, completing homework in the commons or in the library, preparing notes, getting ready to take a test, accessing tutoring from one of your peers, or making up an assignment like a test, a quiz, a PE assignment, a science lab, things like that. You may also choose to use your time for social reasons, finding time in your busy schedule to just be with your friends, work on some club activities, not in an organized club meeting, but just time with you to connect with your club members. And you might choose to tutor your peers for community service hours. Additionally, there's time for business items like buying dance tickets, paying fines and fees, clearing your attendance, checking out books, checking your email, etc. You're now going to have a few minutes to be able to join with your neighbors and talk about how you think you might use your choice time, what you think the expectations are of you during choice time, and what are some things that you think you can get done in 35 minutes during nest time that frees up time for you outside of the school day. You have 3 minutes for this turn and talk. We are now going to come back together as a group to talk about what your expectations are during choice time. During choice time, we're hoping that you use your time wisely for your own personal goals and needs. You still need to follow all school rules, particularly cleaning up after yourself if you're spreading out doing homework in the commons, eating snacks, etc. We also hope that you respect others who want to use their time for academic work on days that you're choosing to use it for social. Moving on to another way in which you're going to be using your time, which is attending school events. School events will be things like assemblies for the whole school or just your graduating class, test prep such as PSAT, AP testing, SATs, required district surveys like Healthy Youth Survey, the SDQ, and District Ends monitoring surveys, doing all of our legally required safety drills like earthquake, fire, lockdown, and then any class-specific activities like taking the senior class photo on the field, high school and beyond planning lessons, junior credit evaluations, etc. I'd like you to take a minute to just talk about what are the benefits you see to having school events inside of nest time rather than during class periods, and what do you think will happen if you skip school events? You have a minute and a half for this turn and talk. Ready, begin. We are now going to come back together to talk about what are the expectations during all school events. You really need to attend because if you don't, you're going to be missing critical information that will be your responsibility to know and be held accountable to. And or you will need to make up those assemblies outside of school on your own time. Examples include, but are not limited to, counseling presentations about your graduation requirements, course selection for the following school year, and doing nuts and bolts activities like bubbling your PSAT booklet. We are now going to talk about the third and final way in which you might be spending some of your nest time, which are SEL lessons. SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning. These are short lessons that align with areas that help students find their own path for after high school and be socially and emotionally ready for adulthood. Some things are topics that we see students struggle with in relation to violating the student handbook, like appropriately using social media and academic dishonesty. Some are topics that students asked us to learn more about, like financial readiness for after high school. Some are topics that relate to your post-high school planning based on your individual goals and needs. I'm now going to ask that you spend a few minutes talking about what are some topics that you would want to see offered under SEL lessons, and how do you think attendance will be taken for students during SEL lessons? You have 2.5 minutes for this turn and talk. We are now going to come back together as a group to talk about what are the expectations during SEL lesson time. Students will be required to attend one or fewer SEL lessons each week during nest time. SEL lessons will be assigned by grade level and the first letter in your last name. Attendance is required and will be taken using your student ID card. You must have your student ID and ASB card with you every day. When leaving an SEL lesson, you will get credit for attending by swiping your ID card with the teacher on their iPhone or iPad as you've completed the lesson. If you have a conflict on a day that you're assigned to take an SEL lesson, you can make up the lesson on other nest days, but you must finish it before the nest calendar is over, which is about every 4 to 5 weeks. So how is this really all going to work? Each grading period, a new nest calendar will be released. There are 8 grading periods in the school year, so there will be 8 separate nest calendars. Each week, the calendar will be emailed to students and posted on our website and sent via a remind text. Most students each week will have a schedule that looks similar to one school-wide activity, one SEL lesson, and 2 days of nest to use as you wish. After this video concludes, your teacher is going to show you week 1 so you can feel confident that you know how you're going to be using your nest time for this first week. But before we do that, let's hear from some staff and students just to reiterate the why. Why are we doing nest?
Like more homework time. Yeah, because it's mostly just like learning a lesson, but then we don't get a lot of time to do homework.
One thing that I do wish I had more time to do is figure out what I wanted to do like after high school. I'm senior this year and still trying to figure it out now.
Time to like spend with friends. I guess last year I felt like I didn't have that much time.
I wish I had more time to just basically balance everything from like sports to a job to like clubs and homework as well.
I wish they taught us more about like bills and like real life stuff, like paying bills and mortgage and all that stuff. You know, I feel like it would be really useful to learn that before going out on your own.
I wish that they would like teach us more on our aspirations or dreams instead of like, oh, this is required to do in order to graduate or whatever.
Just how to move around the world more than just things that probably like some mathematic things that you don't really need for the future.
I'm excited to have the opportunity to help students during the school day. I think a lot of kids don't have the time or the access outside of school to stay in and get help, and so giving them that opportunity during the day, I think a lot of kids will really find benefit in it.
The thing I'm most excited about nest time is probably kind of like kids. I want a little bit of a break in the day to get caught up on stuff.
I'm very excited about nest time, mostly because that gives me extra time to see my students.
It's going to be really good for you guys all to have some time during the day to like decide what you need to work on and be a little bit more sort of independent that way. I think it's going to be really good.
I'm really excited to use it potentially as a way to talk about current events more with my students. In my classes, we talk about current events, but sometimes we just run out of time. So I'm planning to have a couple nest times a month that are just dedicated to like what's going on in the world. Let's talk about kind of current affairs and politics and have kind of a more open discussion that way.
One of the best things I think about nest time is going to be the opportunity to work one-on-one with students who need additional support. And like having that structured time during the day, I think will make a big difference for students who ordinarily would have trouble getting to talk to teachers outside of school.